Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I hope you guys are doing awesome and I hope you're enjoying this warm spring weather. So I don't have a March favorites video for you guys this month. My favorites haven't really changed from February favorites, which I'll link down below. But today I wanted to just talk about my favorite powder foundations. I keep saying I'm going to do a video on my foundation collection, and so I'm going to break it up into two parts. And today I'm going to talk about my top favorite powder foundations. I love powder foundations. I love the quick access to be able to put on a full face of makeup really quickly and just be out the door. Sometimes you don't have time to mess with a brush and a sponge and put on liquid and you just want a good full coverage foundation. Sometimes powder is the way to go. So if you're interested in seeing what my favorite picks are for powder foundation, then please keep on watching. So I'm not going to go in any particular order, but I will talk about my favorite foundation. That this is the first piece of makeup that I ever wore. This was probably my senior year in high school or my freshman year in college. I was actually walking through the mall and I never heard of MAC makeup before, and the MAC makeup guy stopped me and said, "Hey, can I try this powder on your face?" And I completely fell in love, and almost 15 years later I still continue to use the same powder, and it's the MAC Studio Fix powder, and I'm in the shade C40. I have continuously repurchased this powder over and over again. As you can see how much I use this powder. It is always in my purse. I always have a backup. I have one at home, one in my purse. No matter how many powders I try, I continuously go back to this one. It is a good even coverage. It gives you a good matte finish. It's not super drying on your skin, but it's just a good coverage overall. It does have a compartment to where the sponge stays. You can use this wet. I have never, in the years that I've been using this, I've never used it wet. I don't know what that would look like, but you know, they do have a compartment in here if you decide to wet the sponge. It has little holes in it so your sponge can dry. I personally like using the sponge. I know a lot of people don't, but I actually like using the MAC sponge that it comes with. It is just I don't know, the softness of the sponge is just right to be able to get a full even coverage. So it's great for touch-ups on the go. It's even good if you're looking for a good full coverage with your liquid foundation to use this with a brush and set your foundation. It will give you even more fuller coverage and give you a flawless finish. So the next foundation I really like is the Makeup Forever Duo Matte Foundation. I'm in the shade 209. This is the color that this looks like. So this one is a really matte finish, more matte than the MAC one. Again, the name is Duo Matte. So the only problem with this foundation for me is there's not a ton of shades. MAC has a ton of shades. I'm sure everybody who's watching this video is familiar with MAC, and they have a bunch of shades that you're bound to find your perfect match. With Duo Matte, I think there's less than 10 shades on this one. So I'm kind of in between. The shade is a little pink for me, but I loved how matte this was, and then I can fix it with a little bit of bronzer. But again, this comes with a sponge, and I like using the sponge for this one as well. So this is the Makeup Forever Duo Matte in the shade 209. Another foundation that I really love is by IT Cosmetics. I'm sure you guys have all seen their Celebration foundation. Well, this is the Celebration Illumination foundation. Their original powder foundation, that's the Celebration one, was just way too drying on my skin. I have normal to dry skin, and then in the summer it's more oily, but more so normal to dry for most of the year. And then their regular Celebration Illumination was just very drying on my skin, to the point where you could actually see flakes on my face. So I wasn't able to use it. But then I gave the Illumination one a try, and it's really pretty. This one is a little light also, because they only come in like fair, light, medium tan, shades like that, and I'm in the shade medium in this powder foundation. So it is a little light. This is really good for winter time. The tan is way too dark, and even in the summertime it's just way too dark for me. So this one is good in the wintertime, and I can again use a little bit of bronzer and bronze my face up. But this is also really good because it is so light to just set the under eye and give your under eye concealer a good setting powder and also brighten up that area. But again, this is and this is really full coverage. If you use a flat top brush with it, it's really full coverage. This is another foundation that comes with a sponge in it that I also like to use a sponge with. But then if I'm setting my under eyes, I do use a fluffy brush to set it with. Another powder foundation that I recently discovered was Dermablend Professional, and it looks like this, and I'm in the shade Olive. It's called Intense Powder Camo. I just needed a new powder, and I fell in love with this at Ulta, and I had enough points to get this and get some dollars off. But it looks like this. It is the perfect shade for me. I mean, this is the perfect shade for my skin tone. Again, I'm in the shade Olive, and this comes with a sponge as well. but this is a really good full coverage foundation. If you have any type of birthmarks, discoloration, anything you need to hide on your face, this is the powder to get because it is super, super full coverage. Out of all my powder foundations, even the MAC one, this is the most full coverage. If you use a sponge or if you use like a flat top brush, something similar to this, like if you use a flat top brush, you're gonna get a really good full coverage out of these foundations. But this is my most intense full coverage foundation, that on the days that I know where I need to have a full coverage look and I really want a matte finish, then I definitely reach for this powder. Another great foundation that I really love is by Becca, and it's the shade Tan. That's just the shade I'm in. They come in, this one also has a really great range of shades, but I'm in the shade Tan. And it doesn't have a separate compartment for the puff, but it just comes on top. I personally don't like Becca's puff. It's really thin and flimsy. It doesn't have that cushiony like feel like the MAC one does, but the powder itself is amazing. It's a perfect shade for me. It's very silky, it's very smooth. I don't know if you guys can see that, but it's very, very smooth. And this is like more than just a foundation. I love using this as a setting powder because as a foundation, it's a good light coverage. It's not super full coverage. It is buildable, but you can also, as you're building this foundation, you look like you're wearing a lot of powder. So what I like to use this for is if on days where I know I just want like a light dusting and a light coverage of foundation, I'll reach for this, or I will use this as a setting powder on top of my liquid foundation. That's how I like to use the Becca one. And I also like to keep this in my purse for touch-ups because if you're using a full coverage powder foundation, you don't necessarily want to do touch-ups with that throughout the day. You want something lighter. So I like to keep this in my purse for touch-ups throughout the day. So I have two mineral foundations that are really good. And the first one is the BareMinerals Ready Foundation. I'm in the shade Golden Tan. In the loose one, I'm in a shade Medium Beige, but in the pressed one, I'm in Golden Tan. And this one doesn't come with a compact. You actually have to use a brush. You could use a compact powder puff if you have one, but it doesn't have room to fit one in there. So that's the downfall on this one, because I really do personally like using sponges. But this is the brush that they sell with it, or they market for this foundation. And I had bought this a long time ago together, but this one is really good. It works best with a brush is what I'm trying to say. Like you can get a really good full coverage buildable finish with a brush. So this is really good if you have sensitive skin and you need a mineral foundation. It's very buildable. It's very sheer, but it's very buildable. You can go from sheer to full coverage, and it's good because as you build it, it doesn't make your face look very powdery or cakey. It just keeps that glow that BareMinerals is known for. So this is a really good foundation if you have sensitive skin. Another really good foundation is by Pure Minerals. This is their old packaging. I just haven't finished it, but this is their old packaging, and I'm in the shade Medium Dark as the summer comes along, and that's what that shade looks like. This one does have a powder compartment for the puff, so that's a good thing about this foundation. But this is one foundation, even though it does come with a puff, I don't like using it. This one is also good with a dense brush like this, and this is a 4-in-1, so you really don't even need a concealer with this. What you do is you buff it all over your face, take a little bit of extra and buff it in the areas you need to conceal, like your under eyes. So again, if you have sensitive skin and you want to check out mineral foundations, I would check out this one as well. And the last foundation I'm going to talk about is the new Urban Decay powder foundation. I'm in the shade Medium Warm, and this is what the packaging looks like. I don't want to blind you, but that's what it looks like. And this one also suggests you can use it wet or dry, and it comes with a great little puff. This puff is so soft. I actually love applying it with this. And this powder itself is just so creamy. Like, I don't know, it's just really, really creamy and really soft and really blendable. And it just goes on your face so smooth. That's what sold me on this powder. I was just sitting there in Ulta and I was playing with the powders, and then I kind of swiped my finger across it and I was like, oh my gosh, this is so creamy. So even it applies really creamy on your face too. So this is another good one to check out. It gives you a good full coverage. It's not super matte, it's not super drying on your face, but it does give you good coverage and it is buildable. So this is the Urban Decay Skin Ultra Definition Powder Foundation, and I'm in the shade Medium Warm. Okay guys, that's all of the powder foundations I own. I think that was 8 of them. I know that's a lot for some people, but I really love powder foundations and I continuously finish them. That is one product in my makeup collection that I'm always out of, and I'm always looking for the next latest and greatest powder. So I don't feel bad purchasing new powders because I know that is one thing I will always finish. But I hope you guys found this helpful. I am in a shade MAC NC42 in the liquid foundations. I know a lot of people use MAC as a reference. The one shade that that I'm not an NC42 in is the MAC Studio Fix. I'm a C40. So I hope this helps you. I will list all my shades and all the products below. So definitely go check that out. And I hope to see you guys in my next video. Bye.